Hey everyone, Miss Knittycat here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to knit the horseshoe lace stitch. I really like this stitch because even though it's a lace stitch, it gives you a fabric that looks really pretty. This is the right side, this is the wrong side, and I've done it in two colors here so you can see how it looks in a lighter shade versus a darker shade. Now horseshoe pattern, lace patterns, you can do them in multiple different ways. You can make bigger horseshoes, you can make smaller horseshoes. This is just a medium-sized horseshoe that I like, and it's a traditional pattern, the horseshoe pattern itself. So I've provided the details in the description field, and I don't have a specific project. I'm just knitting up a scarf here to use up some leftover yarn, and I've put on a 5-stitch border, moss stitch border on either side, and so I've cast on about 41 stitches, and I've provided those details if you're interested in making this. Obviously I just started this. I'm using up some leftover yarn to just keep making this scarf, so it'll be a multicolored horseshoe lace scarf. And let me show you how the pattern is knit up. Now it is knit up over a multiple of 10 stitches plus 1. So I've cast on 21 stitches here, which is a multiple of 10 plus 1 stitch at the end. And it is an 8-row repeat, but every other row is actually just a purl row. So you just have to do the pattern on the odd rows, rows 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then you can relax on the even rows because they're just all purl. All right, here we go. Row 1. You're going to do a knit 1 for the first stitch, and that's true for all the pattern rows, the 1, 3, 5, and 7. The first stitch is just a knit 1, and then starts the pattern repeat. So for the pattern repeat, it's a yarn over, so bring the yarn to the front, then you're going to knit 3, and then you're going to do an SK2P, and what that means is you're going to slip 1 stitch, so insert as if to purl, and just bring it over. Then you're going to knit 2 together. So take your right needle and insert it into the front loops of both stitches and knit them together. Drop both stitches, and now you're going to pass the slip stitch over. So the second stitch right here that we had slipped, you're going to take your left needle, insert it in that, and then pass it over this stitch, the first stitch. Okay, we'll see that one more time when we do the repeat. All right, then we continue on. Knit 3, yarn over, and knit 1. So that's the pattern repeat. You'll keep repeating that all the way to the end. So here we go again. Yarn over, knit 3, SK2P, so slip, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over, and then knit 1, 2, 3, yarn over, knit 1. That's the end of row 1. You're going to turn your work, and for row 2 we're just going to purl all the way across. Now with lace patterns, sometimes depending on the pattern, the stitch count may change from row to row. In one row the stitch count may go up, and then after you've done the second row it may come down back to the original stitch count. I have to say, in this lace pattern the stitch count stays the same, so you don't have to worry about that. And that's actually a good way for you to also have a check on your work. If after a certain row you think, oh, did I do that right? Did I do the right number of yarn overs or the SK2Ps? Then you can do a quick stitch count and check to see if you still have the same number of stitches that you cast on. All right, row 2 is done. Now we start row 3. Again, the first stitch is just a knit 1. Then we do a knit 1, yarn over, knit 2. Again, an SK2P. So slip, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over, then knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, and then knit 1, knit 2. And that's your pattern repeat. So we'll see that one more time. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, knit 2, SK2P, knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, knit 2. Okay. Row 4, just a purl all the way across. A couple other pointers when knitting lacy stitches. It helps to have stitches or needles that are really pointy. So you can do those knit two togethers and then the passing of the slip stitch over a little bit easier. And it also helps if your knitting is a little bit on the looser side. So that is the end of row 4, and I'm going to turn it. Now we start with row 5, and you'll start to see the pattern is starting to form. So row 5, first stitch, knit 1, then starts the pattern repeat. Knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, S, K2, P, and then knit 1, yarn over, knit 3. And that's the pattern repeat. We'll do that one more time. Knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, S, K2, P, knit 1, yarn over, knit 3. Now that SK2P, sometimes you'll see that as SK2 tog PSSO, and that just again means slip 1, knit 2 together, pass the slip stitch over. That's what that PSSO stands for. All right, row 6 is just a purl all the way across. So bear with me while I purl this row. Oh, one other point I wanted to tell you before I forget. Because this is a lace pattern, I would highly recommend putting proactive lifelines. I've provided a link to my video on putting those types of lifelines if you're not familiar with that technique. It really helps protect your work, because if you make a mistake, and we all do occasionally, then it helps to rip out your work and still have your stitches all protected. You can also put a reactive lifeline. I've provided a link to that as well. But putting in a proactive lifeline, I think, will be the better option. All right. And now row 7, knit 1, knit 3, so this is the repeat, knit 3, yarn over, right, yarn over, S, K2, P. Now we do a yarn over again right after that SK2P, and then knit 4. So that is the pattern repeat. So for this row, it might feel a little weird because you're going to do a, so here we go, we'll do the pattern repeat again. You're going to knit 3, then you do the yarn over, and then right after the yarn over, you're doing that SK2P, okay? So it might seem a little weird, but that's the way the pattern is, and it'll work just great. And then you do a yarn over right after, and knit 4. And then you just do a purl all the way across for row 8. I'm not going to do that in the interest of time, but you'll start to see that the pattern forms, right? And with each 8-row repeat, you're getting this horseshoe, this one level of horseshoe. And each time you do that yarn over, that's when you're getting that hole. So you can tell sort of from the holes which rows, how many rows you've completed. You can always use a little row counter when you're first getting started to keep track of your rows, or just write it down on a piece of paper. So if you step away from it, you know where to pick back up. And then the other point I'll tell you also is that these little left-leaning lines that you see, those are your SK2P decreases. So each row, when you're doing that SK2P, you want to make sure that it is lining up. If on a particular row you realize that it's not lining up, that's a sign that you've probably made a boo-boo somewhere and messed up and maybe not had the right stitch order. So you might want to go back and check your work. But if you do it the right way, it provides a very nice scalloped edge at the bottom. It looks really pretty. And then one other point I'll tell you is that when it's done, the back side of the work will look a little bumpy like that. I think it looks just fine to use it as such, but if you want it flatter, then you can always block your work and flatten it out, and it'll flatten out really nicely and it'll look very, very pretty. So I hope you give this one a try. I think a blanket in this pattern would look absolutely phenomenal, but I think I'm just going to stick with my little scarf and try to use up some of my leftover pieces of yarn. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions at all. I'll do my best to answer them. Click the like button if you like my channel. Thank you for watching, for supporting. I love reading everyone's comments and to learn about your fun projects. And I've provided some links to my other videos right here at the end, as well as in the description field. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I promise I have some really fun videos coming up. So as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and happy knitting.